Hi, I'm the Shifter Queen, LeTeisha Newton, and I'm sorry that the Shifter guide is coming on a little late today. Yesterday was the release of my novel, Accepting Their Claim, and so I was really busy with that yesterday, getting everything in order the way that it should have been and getting some other things done. And then today was the Shifter Seduction Twitter party with me and 5 other authors from a book set that's going to be coming out later on this week on the 15th from Amira Press entitled The Shifter Seduction Box Set. It has Eve Langlis on it, Tressie Lockwood, Mandy Harbin, S.K. Yule, Crimson Heart, and then I, all combined as like the first book of our most popular series is all going to be combined in one box set, and it'll be available for 99 cents from Amira Press. So today was the Twitter party for that for an hour, and we had a blast. We were just laughing and joking with so many people and getting, live questions answered by any readers that wanted to know about, some of our plot and how we come up with things. And it's hilarious, how a group of people can get together and very few people actually ask about the box set itself. Most of them are interested in, how we do things, how we come up with our characters and our stories and our inspiration, and really just wanted to basically have a hangout with us. So we had sending pictures of drinks, like this is what you should be drinking right now, or this is what you should be listening to on your radio right now, going on with the party. We had drool-worthy pictures of some awesome guys to say, this is what, inspires our alpha men. So it just was one long, enjoyable time. But now I am back to go ahead and do the third part of the Shifter Guide. And today is going to be finishing up on some questions because I did get some more based on shifters in general, but they did ask it after seeing the wolf videos because they wanted to know a little bit as far as that aspect and how that would happen. So the question that I got from Eve LaFoy was, what about dominant and submissive relationships between shifters, or how exactly would you fit that in, even if you have a shifter and a human mix, and how exactly would that go? So I did want to go over a little bit with that and kind of show everybody what that is. So I wanted to go a little bit over what that is with everyone and speak about that. Another question I got from Lily McKenzie Ryan was, what about interrelation or intermating between different animals or different shifters that you can have, and then get a little bit more specific into the wolf-cat kind of mix, because let's just face it, pussy and dogs don't usually go together. So we wanted to kind of talk about that. So let's go ahead and tackle the dom-sub relationship first, because that might be a little bit more intricate, but at the same time easier to speak about. And the reason is that because a shifter, by definition, is going to be dominant. Because they have the animal side within them, animals naturally go for either dominance over those around them, or to find their own rank within their pack or within their groups, or they have to submit to that person. They understand dominance and submissiveness more than we could ever imagine. That is a part of their world. So if you wanted to exaggerate on that natural instinct and that natural point that they have to extend it into a dom-sub relationship, great. This is something naturally they do. Actually, the book that I have coming out, or that did come out on Friday, Accepting Their Claim, actually explored a dominant submissive relationship. It didn't get into as heavy into BDSM, because I will get into that in a second. It didn't go heavy into that realm, but it definitely was a dom and his sub. There was no doubt about that. I had an odd book with Accepting Their Claim because it's the MMF relationship, which means male and male and the females on the end. When you have MMF versus MFM, means that the males can actually have a relationship together, and then the female comes in and makes it the threesome. Versus the MFM is going to be these males have nothing to do with each other. The thing that connects them is the female in the center. So my characters in Accepting Their Claim, Tobias and Hideki, are lovers, and they have been for years throughout the series. So what's going on is that Hideki is my dom. He's my dominant male. He is also higher in the pack because he falls right under Andrzej or Sasha, as most people would know him from the Fire of Their Claim. Since Hideki falls right under him, he's like fourth in line, so to speak, even though that doesn't really have a title within a pack, but that's where he is, fourth in line as far as strength to the pack, only to be beaten by Rion and Quinn, which are your, beta and alpha, and then Sasha as your gamma. And then here comes Hideki. So he's the dominant. Then you have Tobias, which is actually right under Hideki. So they have a natural Hideki being more powerful than Tobias, and so they have a natural I dominate you because I'm stronger anyway. But also within their relationship, Hideki is the dom. He is the silent, very intense, very do this, commanding, whatever he wants from his male lover that he has in Tobias. And Tobias is more than happy to take care of this. And if Hideki says right now in the middle of the room, strip, I don't care who's looking, turn around and bend over, that's exactly what Tobias is going to do. Partially because naturally Hideki's wolf is stronger than Tobias's wolf. And then the other half of it is they have a dom-sub relationship as humans because that's the kind of relationship they want. So when Sonya comes into the relationship, which is their female, she has to find a place within them because they already have an established love. What I had to do with them is make both of them want her as a mate. So it actually caused them to fight at first and actually want to butt heads against each other versus let's all be a happy family. And then kind of realize that, hey, this female seems to get a little hot and bothered if she thinks we're going to touch each other. Or she gets a little hot and bothered when she sees our dominance play between us. Maybe she was meant for us and the love that we have for each other was meant to be too. And it's, they go from there to find out if this is true, what's right, and how exactly they're going to make that work. But that is an example of a dom-sub relationship within the shifter world. I just happen to have written about that, and it just, recently came out. Now, if you want to get more into the BDSM world of a dom-sub, first thing I would tell you to do your research. You cannot have a master dom, okay, number one, with a dominant male, and he has never been a submissive, or he has not been recognized within their group in some sort of way to make him a master dom. You can't just say, oh, he's a master dom, but nobody seems to know he's a dominant, and nobody seems to know about the underworld, and there is no community of an underworld that he kind of goes to. Master dom is a title that is presented to you by the community in which that you are in. Same thing with a grandmaster. You have to be given that title, and it's very rare to be given that title. So if you're going to be getting into the BDSM, know your stuff. Don't mess that up, because a lot of people pay attention to that. Definitely, especially to books like 50 Shades of Grey and things of that nature, where Christian Grey is obviously a dominant, and that probably would be something that I would even say might be a good thing for you to read, something like that, because he's obviously a dominant. If you want to get into like ropes and ties, then you might want to get into like Patricia A. Knight's series, with hers to choose and hers to claim and things of this nature, because those have a lot of those elements in it. But either way, you want to make sure you do your research, because you need to make your BDSM as realistic as your shifters can be and as realistic as their relationship. So that would be your first stop, is make sure you know what you're talking about. Most doms, they may be dominant. They're a dominant personality. Okay, so like Tobias, in accepting their claim, was a dominant, period. He just could dominate his submissive that he had, and that's the relationship they had. They didn't have rules, they didn't have punishments, they didn't have contracts, there was no I'm going to collar you, levels of collars, or anything of that nature. If you're saying specifically you want them to have a dom sub within the BDSM world, then you need to know about a slave, owner relationship, slave master relationship, or if you just want it to be a dom sub relationship, do you want to have collaring or not? And if you're going to have collaring, do you want to have levels of collaring? Because being collared is like being married in the BDSM world. So first I would say know your BDSM, because that'll make it much easier to fit it in with your characters. Then I would say the shifter world lends itself to the BDSM just because of their natural dominance and submissives that they have among them. So I would say definitely go for it. Just really just know your stuff so it makes a good transition. Otherwise, you can find yourself in a little bit of trouble. Okay, so hopefully I answered your questions on that. But if you have any more, don't hesitate to ask, and I definitely will go ahead and continue on any individual point that I need to continue on. Now, next I would like to go over interspecies mating with shifters. Can it happen? Yes. Even in the real world, you have tigers that mix with lions, and that's where you have your tigon or your liger. It depends on if the lion is the male and the tiger is a female, then you have a liger. If you have the tiger as the male and the lion is the female, then it's a tigon. And those are real animals in the wild. You have crosses between horses and donkeys. Get your mules. I mean, so you have real breeds that do intermingle. It just really depends on if their species can do it, and usually they're in the same genus classification to a point so that they can intermingle with each other. So yes, you can do that because even in the wild, it does happen. So if you want to say have a wolf shifter mixed with a dog shifter, that can happen, and you can make dog shifters. You can do that. Then there are definitely some books out there where you have like a bunny is mating with a wolf, and you're like, how? Because they're natural enemies. Okay, well then you're going to have to show that in the book. You're going to have to show why this bunny is enough to just be more than smelling delicious to the wolf. You have to show how they, as humans, can make this into a relationship. And you're going to have to show a little push and pull because their animals won't normally go together. So just have to be careful if you want to do interspecies mating, that either they're interspecies that could mix in the wild anyway, so they'll fit, so they may not have much fighting to do, or you want to do two that can be almost opposites of each other. And then you're going to have to take that into account when you're writing their love and their romance, because this is going to give them some friction. And you never know, like if you have a wolf, okay, their pack, how's their pack going to feel about it? Is their pack going to be very accepting? Is their leap, if they're, a leopard or a cat, are they going to be accepting of this? Or their Felix is going to be accepting of this? So you want to make, you're going to have to take into account that if you are going to be, mixing them like that, then you're going to have to pay attention to the pack as well to, have some effect on the storyline or their interrelations and what exactly goes on. Now, to expound on this a little bit more and then take it down into the wolf-cat mixture. Okay, they're natural enemies, even in the real world. But even in the real world, how many households have dogs and cats, and those dogs and cats live perfectly fine together, and you can even have all those cute little pictures, on YouTube and everything else of the cat sitting in the middle of the dog's arms, and they seem to be best friends. It can happen in the real world, so yes, it can happen, in a shifter novel. It's no different than the other intershifter relations or mating, groups that you can have. The difference there is, with cats and dogs is that's I would almost say the cliche inter-shifter mix. Not saying that it's been overly done, it's just that people are very comfortable with that mix because that's like Captain Obvious, kind of like they're not going to mix normally. So those have been done, is the wolf and, the cat, whatever form of cat you want to do. That's been done. But it's been done a lot of different ways. So it can still be done. You still just be good. You just have to think outside the box. But obviously, they're going to want to fight. There are probably going to be some, kind of dog jokes or something like that. I could say even, for example, the Taken series that I'm writing. The Taken by Lust has already come out, and that's the story, of Celine and Petra. And, everybody really liked that story. Okay, well, that's were-leopards. They're cats. Okay, well, one of Celine's best friends is Maddie. And Maddie has fallen in love with Colin, who is a wolf, and they're mates. Now you would ask me, why does it have to do with anything with wolf and cat relationships since they're not mating? Well, here's the thing. Maddie and Celine are best friends, and Maddie is as a mate may very well end up a cat, as a wolf because she's going to convert for her mate. Okay, and Celine is a cat. And then it just so happens that Maddie and Colin, because they're also shifters, move into the house with the cats. Okay, so now you have a wolf who happens to be an alpha without a pack in a house full of cats. Okay, so they have natural picking on each other that happens all the time. There's actually a scene in the new one that I'm writing, Taken by Desire, where Ciro, which was introduced in the first book, he's Peter's best friend. He makes a joke to Colin about, why don't you go lick your balls somewhere? And Colin says, I have someone to do that now, so I don't have to do that anymore, basically. And then, haha, very funny. Let's continue with the dog jokes. There's a wealth of words that I could say about you being a pussy. And, they kind of go back and forth constantly in the dialogue, picking at each other, with the traditional dog and cat kind of going against each other. And so that works, and and they have that interaction. So that would not be anything different than you would have in an actual relationship that's occurring between mates, whether they're male-male mates or male-female or male-female-male or male-male-female, whichever way you want to go. You just have to take into account that there's going to be some interaction, there's going to be some, picking at each other and going back and forth. There's going to be all of this. So use that to lighten up scenes, to add some comedic suspense, to even allow for progression of romance. And if you know how to do it right, and you can bring in something that could actually be hurtful to one of the mates in reference to their shifting, as if to say, I'm not good enough for you because I'm a dog, or something like that, that could actually be something painful that the other mate now has to make corrections for that and realize maybe how hurtful that is to say something like that. Now you have another scene that's going to be really good for that progression of the romance. So you just have to, take it into account for things of that nature. But can it be done? Most definitely. So I hope I answered all the questions that everybody had about, interrelations as far as the shifters, mating, for the wolf and the cat, as well as going over some of the Dom, Sub, and BDSM relationships. Again, a lot of it is know your research, know what you're talking about, get that information behind you so that you know it like the back of your hand, and then say, now I want to think outside the box and go above and beyond what the research that I've done. And that's always pretty much going to steer you in the right direction. So I'm happy that everybody came to see me today. And again, sorry about being late, but I did make it finally. And I hope to see you guys all next week. And feel free to ask your questions. I'll make sure I answer. Otherwise, next week we're going to go more into the cats in general and kind of start expounding on them and the different shifters you have, the different names that you might want to know about, because they're not called packs, or they're not called alphas or betas, because that's not in their nomenclature. So we'll kind of go over that as well to help you out. All right? So see you guys later, and hope you have a great Saturday. Bye. Subscribe to see more.